Now, that method we just went over in the last section, completing the square. It looks like most of you are pretty good at it. It is a little long, though. It's a little tedious. Basically, what we're going to do in this section, 7.2, is I'm going to give you a method that effectively does the same thing, just quicker. It's just a formula that you could just get right to the final answer. So remember the steps I did, the whole wake you up in the middle of the night, you know. If you see x squared, remember the process. I've said if you see x squared with it, let me go back to that. I know I kind of reneged on it maybe an hour ago, but now I'm going to go back and say no. It is a good process if you'll just throw a patch on the end. Now the method we just learned is a patch. Did not work, but that's a lot of work. I'd like a quicker patch. That's what this section is about. So let's go back. Really, that is a good way to think. That get a zero factor, that really is. That's the reason I beat the drum so much on that, because that long run is the best way to think. So if you see x squared, on the exam we take in 2 weeks, if you see x squared, you should think right away, step 1, get a 0. That is good, which this one already has a 0, huh? Step 2, now instead of just saying factor, that's what I told you a month ago when we were pretending that everything factored. Now we know quite better. Like this one doesn't factor. Like how are you going to factor this thing? Right? What multiplies to be 4 and adds to be 12? Nothing. I have 4, that'd be 2 times 2 or 1 times 4. Those don't add 12 to be 12. Nothing factors. Again, here's another one that doesn't factor, huh? We know quite well now, in the real world, instead of the world of make-believe, in the real world, things don't factor. A lot of things don't factor. So instead of saying factor here on step 2, I'll say try to factor. Give it a shot. You know, if it factors, hey, that's great. But usually they won't factor. A lot of times they won't factor. Sometimes they will. And if they do, great. Do that, you're done in 2 shakes. It's over. But then I'm going to give you a patch now. I'll say, or if you can't factor it, or you just don't feel like factoring it, you can use, what is it? The quadratic formula. Here it is. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you like it. Most students really like it. It's really, yeah, you can just put it on your 3x5 card, so you don't have to memorize it. And you just plug the stuff in. I'll show you. You just plug in. It's pretty straight ahead. You'll get really comfortable with it. You'll like it better than the last method. It's quicker. I know, whatever we get used to, we like. But let's give this a good try. You'll prefer this in the long run, I promise. All right, so let's do it. So that's really what we should do. And I'll say, you don't have to. Now, well, yeah, let me not say too much. Let's just crank it up. Here we go. All right, so you look at this thing. You think, okay, it's an x squared equation. We got a 0 already. Step 1's done. Try to factor. I already did. It's not going to factor, right? The 2 parentheses are not going to work. So forget about the factoring. Let's go to the quad. Here we go. Now, what's the A, B, and C in that quadratic formula? I bet you can guess. A, B, and C, huh? Yeah. Now, it's the numbers. It's not the x's. It's just, you just peel off the numbers in front of the x's. So what? Now, I don't see a number here. What is A?
1.
Yeah, you know. A is 1. Not 1x squared, but just 1. It's just the number. What's B? Just the 12. And what's C? It's the 4. Now, plug them into the quadratic formula. So here we go. Now, notice the quad. I feel like a used car salesman. Let me point out the features of this quadratic formula. He's got some built-in signs, right? So you got to watch out for that. That's negative b. So that's going to be negative 12, right? Because b is 12. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, 12 squared, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. Let me pause there. So I just plugged in a, b, and c in the various slots. How are we doing? We good so far? Now, a couple mistakes I've seen over the years. Make sure your bar goes all the way. It's a common mistake to only have the bar under the root part. That's not right. That bar, that denominator is under both the front part and the root part. He's under the whole thing. All right, let's crank it out. So negative 12 plus or minus. Now what happens in, just use your calculator. 12 squared, 12 times 12. 144, your calculator will tell you if you don't already know. Minus 4 times 1 times 4. 16. All over, 2 times 1. It's just 2. Keep going. Minus 12 plus or minus squared. 144 minus 16. 128. Are we good to there? We got a little more work to do still. Now we have to simplify that square root of 128. Let me go to a fresh screen. If you're good to there, let me go to a fresh screen. So minus 12 plus or minus square root of 128 all over 2. Right. So take that 128 on the side of your paper. You remember how you guys are pros at this now. Divide. You know, I know 2 goes in. I don't know everything about this thing, but I know 2 goes in. 2 times 64 and go, oh yeah, 8 times 8. This is 2 times 4, 2 times 2, 2 times 4, 2 times 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Remember, don't drop any 2s. How many 2s do we have? 7 2s. So this becomes minus 12 plus or minus square root of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know some of your calculators will do it automatically, huh?
Yeah.
4 root 2. No, or is it 8 root 2? Anyway, so now, what's in the hook? Yeah, nothing, 2. So that means a 2 for 1 deal at target, right? You know how to do this. 2 2's in, 1 2 out. 2 2's in, 1 2 out. 2 2's in, another 2 out. And when they come out, by the way, they go just to the front of the root. They don't hit that 12 or go past the plus or minus or anything. They just come immediately to the front of the root. Bless you. If there was already a number right immediately in front of that root, then they would multiply that number, but there's not. There never will be when you're doing the quadratic formula. But I'm just reminding you of the rules we learned last time, right? If stuff comes out of a root, it goes immediately to the front. Nowhere else. So that minus 12 is still separated, plus or minus. And then 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. What's left inside is the last 2. All over 2. We good to there? Now, can I divide anything? Yes. Yeah, remember what we learned? When these 3 numbers are all divisible by the same thing, you must do it. What goes in all 3 of those numbers? 2, huh? Now, if any one of them didn't work, like what if this was a minus 11 here instead of 12? Then he would not be divisible by 2. Then I would stop. I can't do the 2 and 8. Why? Because they're glued. So it's all 3 or nothing, because these guys are glued, right? They're doubly glued. Plus and minus, glued. So it's all 3 or nothing. A number goes into all 3 or nothing. The mistake, there goes our power. Huh? So sometimes a mistake people make, like what if there was just nothing there? Some people think, oh, well, then I'll just do the 2 and 2 because there's nothing there. No, what's really there if there's nothing there? There'd really be a 1 there, huh? 1 there. And 2 doesn't go into 1, so you would do nothing. You would stop right there. Okay, so what we do have an 8. 2 does go into 8, so I'm going to divide all 3 of those. Divide by 2, leaves a minus 6. Divide by 2, leaves a 4. Divide by 2, leaves a 1. So I have minus 6. Plus or minus, what is it? 4 root 2 over 1. And do we ever leave 1s in the bottom of any fraction ever at any time in our whole lives? Maybe you did it once in your life, but never again, right? Negative 6 plus or minus 4 root 2. There we go. There's the answers. Hey, Wendy. Questions on that one? All right, let's try one of these. All right, let's try that one. So go ahead and do the quad. Do the quadratic formula.
Have you started parabolas yet? Are we going to encounter a problem?
What's that?
Is there a problem on this one?
A problem?
Yeah. Unless you're doing the imaginary.
Oh, is it going to do that? Oh, you're right. It's going to be, yeah. Oh, let me show you. That's weird. They gave one right away in number 2 that's imaginary. Yeah. So, yeah, you guys sound like that's true. So, A, B, and C. So, A is 1, B is -1, C is 5. Good so far? Plug into the quad. So, it's going to be negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And then, so plug in the B right there. So you get negative, -1. And then B squared, -1 squared. Minus, what am I doing? So B squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 5, all over 2A. Okay, and then what becomes of that? So we're going to get 1, right? Double negative becomes regular 1, positive 1, plus or minus the square root. Yeah, -1 squared. -1 times -1, plain 1. Minus 4 times 1 is 4 times 5 is 20. Yeah, do they want imaginary answers? I don't remember, to tell you the truth. I'll look in the answer key. But let's see. I think they do, huh? So we good to there so far? And what do you do with a negative inside a root? What do you always do? Kick out an I, huh? Right? So you grab that negative, and you say negative, you're going to kick out an I. So then it becomes 1 plus or minus I root 19 over 2. No more negative inside. It kicked out an I. And that's it. We're done. There's nothing more we can do there.
In the other homework, we have to do.
Yeah, they'll take it this way, like that. I mean, I could do it. This is the same as 1 plus I root 19 over 2, comma 1 minus I root 19 over. That's the same answer. So if it's that way on a multiple choice test, grab it, same thing. Plus or minus. Yeah, it's the two options with the plus, right? The plus or the minus. That's right. Good. That one. Let's solve that one. Okay, so step 1, get a 0, so jump this over. Step 2 is the quad. Negative B, so step 2 is the quad. Negative B plus minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So A is 1, B is 3, C is -2, huh? So negative B, -3, plus or minus the square root of B squared, 3 squared, minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. Good so far. So then that's -3 plus or minus square root of 9. Now watch the signs here. This is where it's easy to mess up. Negative times positive times negative. 2 negatives? Positive 8, huh? Which is going to be -3 plus or minus root 17 all over 2. Done. We can't simplify that at all. Does that make sense? So watch, just count your signs. 2 negatives is positive. 1 negative is just negative. Good. That's quicker than completing the square, isn't it? Just plug them in. Let's try that one. It's just a bunch of foiling and like terms, and then eventually you'll get x squared, and as soon as you see x squared, get a 0 and try to factor, but if it doesn't factor, do the quad. All right, let's see how we're doing. Boom and a boom. 12x minus 40. This is a -1 in the front. Remember, when things from the outside of a parenthesis multiply in, the parentheses vanish. They drop off. -1x minus 2, like that. No more parentheses. See that? Whenever something from the outside of parentheses goes in, they drop off. And over here's the FOIL. X squared minus 4x, boom, boom, plus 2x minus 8. Gather like terms, 12x minus 1x. 11x minus, if you lose $48 and then lose 2 more bucks, you lost $50.
Everybody's doing the FOIL method very well.
Good. Minus 4x plus 2x is minus 2x. All right, so we get to here, we see x squared. Somebody wakes us up in the middle of the night. X squared, get a 0. Get a 0 where? On the opposite side from the x squared. Huh. So I'm going to come to this opposite. So here's the wall. I'm going to make this opposite side become 0, aren't I? So that means do the opposite of 11x, negative 11x. Do the opposite of minus 50 plus 50. Whatever you do to one side, you have no choice but do the same thing to the other. Gonzo, gonzo, 0. X squared minus 13x plus 42. Right? Lose $2, lose $11, lost $13. We good? Now, I would encourage you to try to factor. Don't dive right into the quad, because factoring is easier. Now, if it doesn't factor, that's fine. Go ahead and do the quad. Or if you just can't find the factoring, that's okay too. But if you can find it, it'll be quicker. It'll save you some time. What multiplies to be 42? What times what's 42? 6 times 7. Do they add to be, how do they add to be minus 13? Both negative, right? If you lose $6 and lose $7, you lost $13, and 2 negatives multiply to be positive. See how much quicker that is? And then remember what you do after factoring? Each one gets their own 0, because if two things multiply to be 0, either one could be 0 to make them times to be 0. And then you just jump it over, and it's positive 6, and jump it over, and it's positive 7. That's quicker than the quad. So factoring is, try factoring first. If it factors, I'll save you some time. Same answer. Yeah, you could always just do the quad.
I like to use the quad if the number in front of x squared has multiple.
Yeah.
It's like if you have a 4 or a 6.
Yeah, the factoring is hard because there's a number in front of x squared, like 4 or 6. Quad's easier. But if the factoring's easy, then that's quicker. We okay with that one? It's mainly the mess of all the like terms and all that stuff, right? Dive into the quad. That'll be a quick quad. In fact, let me just do it with you because I really want to get to the calculator part with you. So they're going to make us calculate an actual number, and I want to make sure you know how to do that in your calculators to be able to help each of you with that. So I'm just going to dive right into the quad, A, B, C. So it's negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, like that. And then, so that's negative b. Yeah, that's negative 5. We good there? Everybody see what happened there? Plus or minus the square root of b squared. Yeah, maybe it's okay. So b squared, that'd be negative 5 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. We good to there? This making sense? And then we, what do we get from there? Now we're going to get positive 5, right? Plus or minus the square root of 25. 5 squared is 25. It's going to be plus, right? Because it's negative times positive times negative. Two negatives. It's going to be positive 140 all over 10. Which is 5 plus or minus the root of 165 all over 10. That's as far as we can go. You can try to break down. If you tried to break down that 165, you would find out that it's 5 times, I don't know, 33. And then 33 is 3 times 11. See, there's no pairs in there. It doesn't simplify at all. So this is the first answer they want you to type in. But then secondly, they want a calculator. So can y'all get your calculator out and crank it out? Now that's a little tricky. I'll give you the answer and then make sure you can all do it as well. And I'll bounce around and help with that. So you should get 2 answers on the calculator. In fact, let me just go to a fresh screen here.
Make sure you get the small sum.
So we got to do the plus and the minus separately in a calculator. This one comes out 1.7. I think they say 2 places. Oh, 3 decimal places. 1.7845. So that is 1.785. The third place, look one to the right, round up. The other one I'm getting minus 0.7845. Third place, look one to the right, minus 0.785. There should be the two, and they want a comma between them. There should be the two answers. Now, if you're not getting that, let me help. Probably the main thing you need to do is hit equals when you're done with the numerator before you hit divide. Hit equals when you're done with the numerator before you hit divide by 10. Because otherwise, if you just right away hit divide by 10, it'll only divide the last number by 10 instead of the whole thing by 10. That's what gives most people. So let me bounce around, see if I can help. See if you can get those two answers on your calculator.
And the Casio lets you just input it nice.
Yeah, some of the nicer ones you don't have to worry about anything. The Casio Natural Display. I feel like I could be a salesman for that company. An honest salesman. Oh, it's nice. Yours is nice. So yeah, you don't need to mess with anything. Yours is nice too. Beautiful. Yep, just cranks it out. Good. Must be a newer TI. Those are nice. What's that? Yeah, what is that, say, 84, 85? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Think you should hover and do your homework for you. Guys doing okay? Yeah, good. You want to try that? What I just did? This is okay, so see how this is plus and minus? So we do the plus, just the plus, not plus and minus, and then the minus. You shouldn't have plus. Here, we're going to erase this and put only plus. See what I'm talking about there? Because we're doing the plus. So yeah, so 5 plus. And then square root. Yeah, and you have to hit enter. That's what I'm saying. Equals or enter right now, and then divide by 10. There it is. So it says you got to remember the main thing is to hit enter, because otherwise it will only divide that. If you didn't do that, it would only. If you just did divide by 10, it would only divide that last number, 165. Instead of the whole thing, because the whole thing is divided by 10. The calculator won't do it that way. How did you do it? 75, good.
Like I said,
You're
they're
getting those?
so that kind of tells you it's still going to be.
Yeah, a few times going it in, okay.
Also, it'll say.
You guys getting them okay?
Text, around 2 or 3 places. So that's kind of the indicator that you're going to do the calculator.
Here we go. Oh yeah, yours is nice. Yeah, it's optional. Yeah, that 0 is optional. Because it's nothing, right? It's 0. Yeah. Right. You guys get it okay with calculators? You guys want to get it on that thing? Yeah.
Have you had to talk about what's the difference between exact answer and approximate answer?
Right, we have. Everybody knows the answer to that question, right? Maybe. So approximate, and when they say exact, they don't want a decimal, huh? Because they don't, because their decimals go round and then they're not. You guys okay? Is it? Yeah. Good, okay. I did one. Yeah.
say hello, but I also like to have that.
All right, looks like we're on track with that. Good.